Hello, you've caught me admiring my box stock racer, fresh from our 4-hour endurance race. I was about to take it apart and change it back to my normal configuration, but while we're here, we should have a quick look at how I've configured it to win our 4-hour endurance race. This was the second endurance event that our club had run. This was a 4-hour teams event, this time with 2 people per team. And this time I didn't want to take it too seriously, so instead of running a Joe Marima in 98mm or an LM car, I picked this one. The first thing that catches your eye about this is my driver Grogu. He piloted the car to its first win ever. This body is a Mini Z first, AC Cobra. Nice body, however, comes on this terrible chassis. Very narrow, but it has a good center of gravity because there's no roof. In order to make this body fit, I've had to do a number of modifications to the car. Firstly, I had to cut off the other side of inside the cockpit because the MR03 has a shock that pokes out the top. I used that cut off part to glue it to the other side and give Grogu a little place to sit so he didn't have to be mounted onto the chassis itself. The clips have been moved downwards by 1mm to just give the rear a little bit of extra height. I left the lights intact, and I did run lights for some of the race. However, it proved to be too much of a hassle during battery swaps. The body itself is a 90mm wheelbase, so it's quite short and difficult to drive, and a very narrow front. Let's take a look at the chassis. This is a 90mm wheelbase car with a rear motor. The pinion size is 6 tooth as per the endurance rules. To be able to clear the front of the body, as you can see inside there, I have inverted the bridge to lower the entire front of the shock. The front of the car is narrow, and I'm using silver Tamiya springs from a Formula 1 car. These equate to about a green PN spring, and are quite good springs. No kingpin flip. As long as you ensure that your suspension is free and working correctly, there's absolutely no reason that you actually need to do a kingpin flip. On the underside, I wanted to be able to use a G10 T-plate. So the center shock has some 1.5k grease in it, just a little bit, nothing too damped. The front kingpins are dry, they've just been polished and are free. I did not want the front kingpins to gum up with dirt across the event, and as you can see from the bottom of my body, there was a lot of dust on the track. To the underside of the car, I wanted to be able to use a G10 T-plate, but the only RM T-plates that I could find were carbon or plastic. So I used an MMT plate and mounted it back slightly. Our rules allow us to use alloy T-plate mounts, so I've used that here to ensure that they're nice and stable. To get the diff working nicely, I've just put in a little bit of 1.5k grease. It is still very free, lets the car turn well. I am using a GL 1mm offset rear wheel here, and the tyre is a KSK 35. The front wheel I am using is a PN flanged front wheel. This one is a 19mm 0.5 offset. These offsets were chosen to be able to fit it under this extremely narrow car. I'm happy to report that my team won the endurance event, and we did 1,001 laps over the 4 hours, beating our nearest rival by a little over 20 laps. This car ran the fastest lap of the race at 11.8 seconds. Our average lap was in the 13 to 14 second range. I hope this video has given you a little bit of an insight on how to set up difficult to drive cars and bodies, and I hope you have a great day.